A very warm welcome. We welcome you to this gathering, which is centered in really looking at issues around children, looking at issues around raising them in these very complicated and new times that we live in, and also in understanding their growth, understanding their development, and looking for ways in which both as Montessori schools, as well as caregivers and Montessori teachers, as a community, we can come together to support children in their journey through life. Maria Montessori, died in 1954, right? Many years ago. And in the years in which she lived, it seems that you could call anything that happened before 1950 something that's quite old, something that's that you have to find its relevance again. But somehow when you read Maria Montessori's work today, as I did in order to prepare for this talk, you are struck by how she speaks to our times, to our needs today as parents, as teachers, as caregivers. She is, because perhaps the work came out of observing children grow and develop without interference, without artificial expectations, without it. The first Montessori school was not a school at all. It was called a house of children. It was a place where children gathered, and there was no expectation of any learning outcome. So there was no teacher either in that very first Montessori school, only the watchman's daughter who was there to, care for the children and keep an eye on them and see what they did with the materials that were provided. So in this very scientific space, it was in this sort of lab-like environment, the Montessori movement first flowered. And so for me, when you, perhaps for that very reason, because it taught us what children are capable of, when there is no adult intervention. So when we're talking about raising children today, I think that the message that I have for you today is to remember that in raising children today, is it our presence and is it our immediate action of the adult that is important, or whether it's pulling back from the child and allowing the child to live a full life. That is important. So this is really the message that I think that is important today in terms of the child's growing self-confidence. And in order to talk about self-confidence and talk about raising children with self-confidence, if we look around us today and we look around what life is demanding at every level, from all walks of life, whether you are a waiter in a restaurant, whether you are a manager of a shopping unit, whether you are the CEO of a company, or whether you're in the office place, or you're a teacher, or you're a parent, or whatever you are, it seems that the one thing that is a constant demand on us is to be confident. In order to act, in order to live, in order to make decisions from moment to moment, it seems that life around us is asking us to be confident in making those decisions if we want a good life. More and more, we understand that large salaries, beautiful homes, things that money can buy, these are not giving us the happiness and stability that we require in order to be happy, in order to be fulfilled, in order to be without stress, in order to enjoy the things that are around us. So in this sort of space, the one thing that we are asked to do constantly is to make decisions, is to make confident decisions, which will bear fruit for us in the journey of life. So in this situation, maybe the first thing to talk about is our relationship as individuals, as teachers, as parents, as adults, with fear. Right? When it comes to fear, each of us has a certain something in our lives which causes us to become afraid. And fear is the opposite, perhaps, of self-confidence. If we look at fear and we look at its source and where fears come from, right? Where does this fear come from? What are these fears that we have as adults, as children, as teenagers, as youngsters, as babies? What is it that where do fears come from? It seems that fears come from the when we fear acting, when we are afraid to act in case we are wrong, right? So this idea that making mistakes is something that we must fear, is something that is very intrinsic and very, very deep in our psyches from the time we are very young. So this idea that we are afraid of things that we can't do. We are afraid of making a mistake and being caught out by everybody knowing that we don't know. We are afraid of revealing our inadequacies. We are afraid of, sometimes these fears are so deep that it prevents us even from carrying out a simple action. So you have the child who comes and says, in your classroom, who comes and says, "Auntie, what shall I do? Auntie, what shall I do? Auntie, what shall I do?" You have the employee who comes and says, "Should I do this or should I do that? Is this correct or is this wrong? Have you please check this so that I can go ahead with it? I can't do it till you tell me that it's right." Right? So fears really come from an inability to carry out actions because we are afraid that we can neither gauge the full implications of that action. We cannot predict what that action will bring upon us. And we are afraid that if there is a mistake, if there is a problem, that responsibility for that problem will lie upon us. So fears are deep. Fears come from our experiences. Fears come from the fact that in our environment, in our physical environment into which we are born, there are things, there are material things, there are cups, there are saucers, there are flasks, there are laptops, there are books, there are things that we can touch and feel in our environment. But in our environment, we also have human beings, right? And we have human beings with attitudes, with feelings, who communicate both to each other and to children and as a society. And we build up a set of attitudes which make us up. So in this tangible and intangible environment, we learn fear. We learn to be afraid. We learn that our actions have consequences, and we are afraid to take responsibility for those consequences. But if we pitch this in another way, and we have an environment in which we are trusted, if the environment trusts us, yes, of course you can do it. Of course you can climb the stairs. Of course you can eat your own food. Of course you can move. Of course you can walk. Of course you can carry the bucket. Of course you can hold the soap. Of course you can shampoo your hair. Right? Of course, the child is surrounded by confidence, by the confident adult who communicates to the child that the child's every action is trusted. Then you have the opposite of fear. You have courage. And children are courageous. The young child is courageous. The child comes into the world knowing that as a stranger to the environment. The child knows nothing of our world. The child does not know our physical world. He doesn't know our emotional world. He doesn't know the social world. He is born as the newborn comes into a world which is new to him, which is completely new. And in this environment, the child begins to act upon the environment. As when does action of the child begin? The action of the child begins with movement. A movement which is guided by the mind. So when the baby is a newborn, the baby has no human movement as we understand it, right? The use of two legs, the ability to carry yourself on your feet to the place which you wish to go, the ability to bring things from the environment to yourself, to pick up a cup of tea and to drink, to sip, to make a conscious action, to take off your glasses. Yes, these conscious decisions that are made by humans, which involve the body, which often involve the hands or the feet, and involve the mind. So when these actions are carried out upon the environment, this action is the first trickle that the child receives within his soul. The child receives these trickles of confidence that come from actions. Acting upon the environment means work. Work is the action of the child, right? Every action of the child is work. So work work is human, right? It is the human who works upon the environment to change the environment. The human does not occupy a house that is pre-built by nature. The human being must change mud and earth and bricks and create these things in order to create a place to live. So the human being is not born with furry clothes. The human being must create the clothes that he wishes to wear, right? So to protect his body from the elements. So this idea of work is changing the environment, to control the environment, to Montessori calls it a conquest of the environment with the mind by the human body, changing that environment, changing that to act. So this life itself, the power to live, comes from human action. It comes from this ability to move with thought. It is never the two separately. Whether you're playing a game or whether you're writing an essay, both these have to come together. Whether you're playing football, whether you're playing basketball, there is no possibility. These are all work which involve the body and the mind. Different kinds of work offer different types of mental ease. So this kind of work which gives satisfaction, which builds the courage of the child, because I can now do it and I can do it well. That builds confidence. That builds confidence. So this action in the child's life, yes, particularly with the newborn child, particularly with the child who's very young, the under threes, the under fours, these children, in their actions upon the environment, what happens to the children, particularly in the first year of life? The child carries the bucket. What do we say? The toddler climbs the staircase. What do we say? The child picks up the newspaper. What do we say? The child goes to fetch a glass. What do we say? If the child carries something breakable, what do we say? The child picks up a pencil. What do we say? The child picks up the knife. What do we say? So what we say to the child is very significant, because if we say no, be careful, it'll fall, you'll break it, you'll get hurt. What are we telling the child? We are telling the child to be afraid, isn't it? We are telling the child, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to carry out these actions. These actions build confidence, because these actions, the child cannot do anything. Nothing will be achieved the very first time. We know that the child gains confidence in the environment, in the work, in what he is trying to do, in the activities that he is trying to do, only through repetition. And repetition can come when I have confidence. When I have confidence that the mistake I make doesn't matter. I must try again. If I must have that courage, then the trust that must be there around me must be deep. So the child needs to be surrounded from birth to 6, from 6 to 12, to 12 to 18, 18 to 24, and in fact through life. Even now, right? Even now for many of us, we need to be surrounded by who? Not by people saying, no, you can't write. Oh, she can't write an email. Oh, her grammar is no good. Her English is a problem. She'll drop it. Yes, don't give it to her. Give it to somebody else. Yes. So even now, what do we need in order to lose our fears? What do we need? We need people who trust us. We need people who can wait while we figure it out ourselves. Yes. Why do we all like video games? They don't judge us. They don't tell us that you can't do it. It's just it's the harsh teacher, right? The if you don't do it, that's it. You lose the game, right? So this idea that there is no one to tell you that they don't trust you. They don't. That very act means that I can build self-confidence instead of fear. So this very important relationship between the child, the movement that the child is capable of, leading to actions which the child carries out on the environment, leading to the trust of the adults, which is who are in the environment, to support the child's actions, to support the child in his journey towards making this action his own. In the beginning of life, the mind, the body, the brain, all the things that must come together to make action upon the environment possible, these are all separated. They've not yet joined together. They've not coordinated themselves. So when this coordination occurs, in order for the coordination to occur, effort is required. And effort is connected to the mind. Effort must be connected to the mind. So this mind must indicate to the child, try again. The child's inner being must tell the child, let's do it again. But if around the child, the lack of trust, the lack of faith, we keep telling the child, no, you can't do it. You're too small. You're too little. You cannot carry this. You cannot climb this. You cannot wear this. You cannot dry the clothes. You cannot wash the clothes. You cannot soap yourself. You cannot eat yourself. I will feed you. Then the messages that go to the child, psychological messages, are that I can't do. I can't do will never, ever lead me to confidence. It will never lead me to a point of understanding that I can. It will never translate. And when this lack of confidence is given to us early in life, we know the power of this young child's mind. The young child's mind will retain that message forever. It is a deeply buried message. It may not come out in tangible ways in later life, but every time there's a little bit of a wound, every time there's hesitation, every time we feel the lack of confidence, we can trace this back to a time that we can't remember. So this wound that is created, this lack of confidence that is created in early childhood, is a burden that the child must then carry through his life. The reality is that we talk a lot in the Montessori environment about helping children to be independent. So in the Montessori environment, the children must take off their own shoes. They must take off their own backpack or their bag and put it away on the shelf. They come in and they must prepare their own area to get ready to do a piece of work. So they must bring their mat. They must bring a table. They must prepare all the things that are necessary. If they need a pencil, if they need a pencil stand, if they need a clipboard, if they need materials that they must bring, if they need crayons, whatever it is that they must bring, they bring it themselves to set up the area for work. They carry breakable things. They carry things which can slide off a tray. They carry water which can spill. They carry grains which often do spill. They carry heavy, very heavy wooden materials which may fall, yes, which may hurt them. They handle knives, they handle scissors. So what is this independence all about? We think that this independence is to help children to do things for themselves, which it is. So the child builds the skills that the child needs of cutting paper, sewing a button, pouring out a drink, serving themselves at snack time. They do many things. They can, this whole idea of preparation for an activity and then replacing everything till the environment is back to the way it was, right? Till all evidence of action is completely cleaned up. right? All the materials are removed from the shelf and everything is put back. So all these actions of the child are to build the child's independence, to make sure that the child feels that the child can do it on his own, for himself, right? But independence is a very interesting thing. Ultimately, are any of us independent? You squeeze out a bit of toothpaste on your toothbrush in the morning, and immediately you have to start with gratitude, right? Somebody made the container for the toothpaste, somebody made the toothpaste itself, somebody has created this brush, somebody's, from every action, the clothes that you wear, you are completely dependent on others, right? So human societies are interdependent. So what is the value of doing things by yourself, for yourself? Yes, to do for yourself, to be independent is only a step. And that step is a step in the direction of self-confidence. I can do it for myself, so I can. I can is a very powerful two little words. I can do it for myself. But that I can do it for myself translates and becomes what? It becomes the offering of that individual who is independent, that capability that I have to do things for myself, that capability I can place at the service of others. I can understand the process of addition. So I understand that you have brought 2,432. Somebody else has brought 4,622, and we put it together and we see how much we have. So I understand that that's the process of addition. That makes me independent in understanding addition, right? In the process of moving forward in mathematics and in understanding deeper concepts. But the minute I can put this joyful understanding at the service of others, helping others to enter into my understanding, to help them to come into my knowledge, to therefore help them to come into their knowledge, then we collectively hold knowledge together, right? So if I can roll up my own mat when I finished my work, and I find that mats are untidy on the shelf, then I can take out those mats and roll them up for others, for everyone in the community to enjoy. If I can pour a drink of water for myself, it means that I can serve others who are thirsty, right? So this cyclical ability to do for yourself is only the first step towards self-confidence. That self-confidence becomes confidence, becomes what you can do completely. It becomes your own when you can hold it. And when do you hold it? You hold it when you can serve someone else with that capability. So this cycle of trust means that we have to understand the role of mistakes in action. When we talk about any action of the child, any work of the child, anything that the child does, anything that any of us do, we have to understand that that action is a process. It's a process of self-construction. So the reason why the child acts is not for that very reason that you imagine that the child, we have some very practical reasons why we would do things. We would go up the stairs to the next floor. Only if there was a very logical reason to go up, right? There was a very practical purpose for us to go upstairs. There's a book that I have forgotten, which I need now. There's no one else to fetch it down for me. So I climb the stairs so that I can go upstairs, fetch that book and bring it back down. Very practical reason. None of us would go up the stairs and come down the stairs and then go up the stairs and come down the stairs for its own sake. Right? We would never do that for its own sake. But this child, the little child, their reasons are hidden from us. Their reasons for acting upon the environment is to build the self, to make myself. So when I'm making myself complete, I'm making myself ready to live. So when I'm making myself ready to live, that ability to repeat something is a natural work of the child. It happens automatically. We notice any young child who can do something will try to do it again. We just have to look around us, leave children alone and watch them and see what they were able to do Whenever they're able to do anything, if they can throw the ball and catch it when it comes back, you will see that they'll try again and again and again. They'll throw it and they'll catch it when it comes back. So this ability of the child to repeat is natural, right? It's natural. It's there within the child. Why is it given to the child? Why is it given to any of us as human beings? Why is it that why is it that we value repetition? It's because it's repetition that allows us to conquer our own mistakes, to understand our own mistakes and to conquer them. This ability to understand my own mistakes, to be aware of my own mistakes without needing another person to tell me, look, here is where you went wrong. This is our journey towards confidence. If we don't understand mistakes and the nature of repetition, then we cannot ever become confident. Confidence requires us not to care about mistakes, not to care about the happening of mistakes, but to use mistakes in the process of becoming better at something. Right? That's a very complicated thing to think about, because are mistakes good or are mistakes bad? They are neither. They are neither. They are neither good nor bad. But from the time we were in school, I think all of us come with this baggage, right? We can't bear for it to be wrong. We can't bear for it to be wrong. So we are in training courses now, when many of us as trainers, when we face students, right? The student wants us to check something, to check if it's correct before it's handed in for correction. When I hand it in for correction, I want it to already be correct. So I want to make sure that somebody has told me that this is correct. And supposing you tell them, what about this? What about that? They will tell you, but somebody already, you are saying it's wrong, but that person told me it's right. So if the courses on which we have two trainers, or trainers and trainers and training, will always say, so-and-so, Hema told me that this is right, but you're telling me it's wrong. Right? So you have this, we have a big block when it comes to mistakes. We don't like to be told that we have made mistakes. And so the idea of mistakes are so deeply ingrained that we can no longer tell what is a mistake. We can't even understand what a mistake is. So in order to understand mistakes, what is it that we ultimately need? We need a big picture overview of a process. Yes. So how do I know? I need to be able to see it, right? How do I know that my chocolate cake, which I baked, has gone wrong? When I put it in my mouth, I know it's gone wrong, right? I know that it's gone wrong. So then comes the question. So how do you tackle that? Do you throw it away and say, I'll never make a chocolate cake again? That seems a very extreme situation, and ultimately no adult human being can afford that. We can't afford that. But what we need to do is finally then be so aware of the steps of making a chocolate cake that we have to be able to zero in on where it went wrong. So you need to understand the entire process completely in order to find out where your mistake was made. I think you all are with me with that, right? Many of us have many different ways of understanding this problem, right? Unless you see the whole, we cannot become aware. We need to know every step of the whole, and it is not possible to know every step of the whole in one go. Very often as parents, we say to children, but I told you yesterday, this is what happened, right? You made a mistake yesterday. So I told you. And again, you've done it. Right? So let's look at the second time we make the chocolate cake. Will it be perfect? The reality is it won't, isn't it? A chocolate cake, right? There are layers and layers and layers and layers of learning. So in these layers of learning, we have to identify the process and understand what can be made better What is the mistake that we must never make? What must we not heat? What must we not do to the eggs? What must we not do to the cocoa? What must we not do to folding it? Yes, making making a chocolate cake, making idlis, making a dosa, when to turn it, when will it tear, when will it not? These are things that come to us with practice. Practice means embracing mistakes. Embracing mistakes is very, very different from being upset and disheartened by mistakes. To be upset and disheartened by mistakes is something that the social environment around us teaches us. It is not something that is in us alone. And even those of us who say that, it's okay to make not, it's okay to make a mistake. Even those of us who say that, yes, even those of us who say that have our moments with it, because all of us come with some baggage with regard to mistakes. So when we know how to learn with mistakes, to embrace mistakes as a part of a process, to grow from mistakes, when we are able to grow from mistakes, then we become confident. So confidence is a journey. Like anything else, confidence is not something that can be given to me. Confidence doesn't come from, oh, wonderful, good job, particularly when it's a bad job. Yes, children know that it's fake. Even we know it's fake. Yes, lovely chocolate cake. We know that that's absolutely untrue because we've tasted it ourselves, right? So that praise that comes for something that is, to make me feel good. You praise me so that I feel good. That doesn't always work. Acknowledging acknowledging where it was, acknowledging feedback, understanding and taking your own feedback and improving something will ultimately lead to knowledge. So I want to also say something about knowledge and memory here to answer questions. I think that's my final idea today, that ultimately we have confidence when we have knowledge. This knowledge of the whole thing, the whole knowledge of something. Then we have confidence. If there is something that you know how to do really well, right? I just, a friend of mine makes a wonderful cup of coffee. It is absolutely perfect cup of coffee. When that perfect cup of coffee is made, yes, there is complete knowledge. How much water, how hot, how much coffee powder, how long should it drip, how long should the milk boil, what kind of milk, what kind of coffee. Everything is perfectly, there is knowledge. So that knowledge allows a perfect cup of coffee almost every single time. When even a slight one of those things doesn't fall into place, there's no coffee powder, there's no that type of milk or something, you know exactly what happened so that that coffee is not perfect, right? So that knowledge allows A for confidence. That knowledge is knowledge because even if you go to sleep at night and you're shaken awake in the middle of the night and you ask how to make coffee and what do you need to make that coffee, you'll know. Because that knowledge is not something that is transient. It's there deep within you. It's as much part of you as your elbow or your fingernails. So every single thing that we experience must ultimately move us towards knowledge. Till you have knowledge, you'll have mistakes. And mistakes are therefore part of process. So knowledge, I'll tell you the other thing that we are seeing more and more around us. When we don't have knowledge, when we've only memorized something, when we've tortured our memory, yes, and I want to share with you what this little girl said to me downstairs, young woman who has just done her board exams, right? So I was walking downstairs in my building and this young child was walking with me. And so I said, you came down for a walk, you have board exams, aren't you preparing for tomorrow? And she said, Auntie, I've come here, I'm going to take out all the physics so that I'll have place to put in all the biology for tomorrow. Can you imagine this poor child's, her approach to these exams, right? So this is not knowledge. This is not knowledge. This will be quickly forgotten. This will be forgotten. And as long as we think that we know things that we only remember, that are only in our memory, we will never be confident. We will worry that we don't have our notes. We'll be worried that we don't have our recipe. We will be worried that there is no one near us to tell us how to do something. We'll worry because we are only reliant on memory. So when somebody tells you, I don't remember, you remember everything. I don't remember. Yes, that memory is not knowledge. Memory is a path. Memory helps you. Memory is a great aid. Montessori says beautifully that it's only a servant that can only do a simple job. It can't become understanding. Understanding will ultimately allow you to be error-free. It will allow you to move towards action, which is error-free. But to move towards mistake-free action is a journey. It's a journey, and that journey takes time. So we can raise self-confident children at whatever age. It's crucial and critical, as we all know, between birth and 6, because it's the time of foundation of life. But between 6 and 12, between 12 and 18, can you imagine the adolescent and how much support that adolescent needs? Yes, as much as the young child, as much as the baby. The adolescent also needs that support. That support is to be confident to make mistakes. If we are confident in processes, if we help the children, if we have faith in the children, that even when they make mistakes, they will be fine. That mistakes are part of a process. The mistakes are temporary. Mistakes will shift. Then we will lose the stress that is associated with mistakes, which then causes a lack of confidence. So confidence is something that can grow as we conquer fear, of failure, right? And we can always help children to move towards knowledge and understanding. I'm going to stop there.